All right, welcome back to the Gentleman's Journey podcast. We are here at the 183rd Annual Convention in Minneapolis. I'm Rafe Himmerline, and today I'm joined by Nick Strelke of Sigma Delta. Would you care to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Nick Strelke, like you mentioned. I am a graduate from Sigma Delta at Duke University. Studied mechanical engineering while I was there and was a former number one. And now, after I graduated, worked a little bit with the central office staff, and am now working for Bank of America. Yeah.
Awesome. So, first question that we always love to start out with, and this is usually kind of a fun one too. What first brought you into Chi-Sci? What was your first experience?
Yeah, I think for me, I've heard this story a lot of times before. I never was going to join a fraternity, and sure enough, that was me. My freshman year, I was like, no, it's not what I'm going to do, but they changed up the housing at Duke while I was there, and it's like, well, maybe I'll give it a shot. A lot of my friends from freshman year were checking out fraternities. I'm like, I'll go around. Ended up going to a handful of open houses, walked into Chi-Sci and went, I know you. I was in the band before that already, and walked in, there's a bunch of other band members. I'm like, oh, I already know half the guys in this room. And it ended up just kind of being a quick, easy fit for me that I kind of felt, I was like, this is a good group to be around, and found a place that I could consider home for the next 4 years while I was living away from where I grew up. So.
Yeah, I think that's a super common story to hear, especially like pretty much all the guys I've met, definitely all the guys from Kentucky too. They all say the same thing where it's like, I was never really planning on joining a fraternity, but I came here and
one thing led to another,
just
and somehow, found where I am, and I'm happy about it.
Yeah, it seems like a very common Chi-Sci experience. I think it's kind of like unique to Chi-Sci, which is very cool. It just shows the differences that come with this fraternity.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate it. Yeah, I like it.
And you also mentioned some of your leadership, as number one of Sigma Delta. Would you care to share any about that and what that was like?
Yeah, that was kind of another surprise. I remember after I joined, I want to join this, I want to be involved in it. So I was kind of a brother at large, so I got to sit in on the executive council that we had at the time and kind of learn about things as a freshman. And I figured out, it's kind of interesting seeing how the ship is run. And then they're like, oh yeah, here's our number one, here's the next number one, and just talking with them about it, it's kind of a cool experience, like kind of picking their brain about it. And then my sophomore year, the guy who was supposed to be the next number one is like, no, I don't want to handle this. And so, Nick, are you interested? I'm like, I'm interested, but I don't know about now. And then I call it peer pressure, but enough of the brothers like, you should do it, give it a shot. I'm like, okay, cool. So ended up running for number one, ended up getting into the position, and it was kind of interesting having that leadership experience. I'd done a little bit in, like I mentioned, I was in band, so I had been a section leader before when I was in high school. I was like, that's something, but it did not necessarily prepare me as much for what I was getting into with being the number one fraternity. But I was very fortunate to have a good group of executive council members with me to kind of help support me. The number one before, luckily was, had all his ducks in a row. So he's like, here you go, here's everything you need to know. And I was able to kind of take it and run with it and lean on my advisors and stuff and get a little bit of help there. That I think was the biggest thing, the biggest kind of learning curve, but getting a better understanding of it's like knowing who you can go to for help.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate. I know a lot of brothers have probably met Gus, Dr. G. He was the faculty advisor for us, and actually a pledge brother of mine. He was initiated 10 minutes before me. He loves to remind me every chance he gets, but I was able to lean on him a lot to kind of help kind of steer when things are going well. When things are going well, great. I was like, hey, things are good. When things were not going so well, he was a great person to kind of turn to and be like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? Kind of pick his brain about different things and kind of help level set myself and him as well, I guess. So.
Yeah, I've only met Dr. G very briefly, but he is just like the greatest resource for all things Chi-Sci. He's just so knowledgeable, and he would definitely be an amazing mentor to have for stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for my brothers before me that have said, hey, we should get this guy involved. He knows what's going on.
He does. He absolutely
So
does.
yeah, it's good to have. resources like him, and then the further I got in my term as number one, got to meet some of the other alumni and lean on them as well. So that was kind of the big thing for me, is learning with leadership. It's like, it's not all on you. The more people you can find to rely on and support you, comes in super clutch.
Yeah, I agree. So with number one, obviously, something that we like to say at our Alpha is that for every number one we have, there's always like one challenge that they're like the perfect person to fit for. Again, it's kind of a little bit vague. It can be like, a very well-defined challenge. Other times, just like more of a general thing. But are there any like challenges or lessons that you learned from your leadership that you'd like to share?
Yes. So one of the big pivotal moments of my time as number one, I went to the mid-year leadership retreat as a sophomore, and I got to meet Sam Bessie was the executive director at the time. We started with him and Donald about what the current state of our Alpha was, and I'd only been the number one for about a semester, and only been in the fraternity for a year and a half. So like, this is kind of what I'm aware. Like, just kind of, it was very, as much as I could phrase it as a 20-year-old kid. Yeah, I was like, I think things are going. They're going, but it wasn't great.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, we've had some visits there, and they kind of got a feel for what the Alpha was doing, and it wasn't a whole lot. And then I had kind of got an understanding at the mid-year leadership retreat, talking with other number ones, like, oh, this is what a fraternity could be like. We're just a group of guys hanging out together now. I kind of want to do some of that stuff. And then they came in, talked to me about doing a membership review, and so we went through that next semester. Had central office staff come in, interview all of the current brotherhood at the time, because we were really struggling with recruitment because we weren't doing a whole lot other than just hanging out. We were kind of on a downhill slope, and not necessarily doing a whole lot. So they're like, hey, let's bolster this back up. Let's see if we can reinvigorate some of the right things. And so we came in, interviewed a lot of the brothers, talked to them about, hey, we want to make some drastic changes, really reinvigorate this Chi Psi experience for you, and get a feel for it. Is this something you want to do? If not, understandable. Well, we're going to go part ways, so to speak, to put it lightly. And so we ended up, at the end of that next semester, with 6 brothers to go into my junior year. And we had Nick Taylor and Max Green, a couple of CO staff at the time, came in to help us out and do an expansion effort after they had recently done one at I can't remember where they had just come from, but they came in, met with me, and I got the chance to really it was one of those where I got to connect with CO staff, work with the university, kind of understand, okay, here's what the responsibility is, and kind of be that connection point, and work with them and kind of get an understanding of, okay, this is how we can recruit, this is what we should be doing. And I was just trying to be as much of a sponge as I can and soak up everything that they're talking about and learn. And that's kind of where I was like, okay, this is what leadership means. It's being able to learn instead of thinking you know what to do, knowing when you don't know what to do, and how to find that answer. So having them come in, help, and then they just kind of said, hey, here's what you should be doing. And I was like, soak it all up, see how much we can get going. We ended up going from those 6 members up to, I think by the end of that year, I graduated 40 guys.
Wow.
And actually had, let's see, names list, things were turning up, the things that we were actually doing, we actually had brotherhood events. So that was a fun turnaround to see, even if it was my senior year. I didn't get to benefit a whole lot from it after the fact. Just seeing the people that we got that opportunity for. I mean, I had some friends that I knew through the band before that I never could quite, I just never broached the topic of, hey, do you want to join a fraternity? Because after, sophomore year, everybody kind of finds their groups, and then they're like, you don't need to stop recruiting, like they're your friends, and you enjoy it and benefit from Chi Psi. Why shouldn't they?
Yeah.
And I was
Might
like,
as well.
that's a good point. And so even seeing a couple of people that were seniors like me that joined just for the 1 year experience, just to have those connections and kind of get a little bit more of a tie to university and to, you know, something larger than themselves.
Mhm.
That was awesome to see, and that kind of made it all worthwhile. Of yeah, even though I didn't get to experience all, like I got, you know, a year of it, of that Kaisai experience that I had heard so much about.
Mhm.
Seeing it kind of continue after that was that vicarious benefit, I guess.
Yeah,
It was fun to see.
yeah, that sounds very rewarding, and it's super impressive too, going from 6 to 40. Like, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
It
I'm sure your impact
it was
absolutely felt.
quite the roller coaster.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure it was a lot of work and stress, but it sounds like it
Yeah.
really made an impact there.
Yeah, it's definitely a memorable experience. Tough times to come
Mhm.
with leadership, but being able to look back on the good bits is always a good thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you've also recently served as a mid-year leadership retreat mentor. And just for anybody who's listening or watching that may not know a whole lot about the mid-year leadership retreat, would you care to elaborate on that and what it's been like being a mentor?
Yeah, so the mid-year leadership retreat is a great opportunity that we have where all the number ones from different alphas get to come meet up together, usually like right after they get elected for the most part. A little like cabin in the woods retreat in Nashville, Tennessee. And it is a great leadership experience where that's where I first really met people from other alphas
Mhm.
and kind of got a better sense of, you know, what it means to be in a national fraternity. I'd gone to convention the year before I went, but this is the first time, okay, I don't have the other Sigma Delta guys with me that I can just hang out with. It is just me.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to meet people from other
Yeah.
alphas and talk to them. I was gonna be that awkward dude in the corner. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. So, getting a chance to meet all the other number ones and kind of bounce ideas and just talk with them about, hey, what's your experience been like, or, you know, what are you guys worried about with some of the struggles you're going through? Just being able to have a room full of your peers and get a better understanding of things, and then connect with CO staff and other mentors that have, you know, been there, done that, so to speak. Getting kind of a feel for, okay, what am I getting myself into?
Yeah.
So being on the mentor side of it now has been incredibly rewarding. In fact, I get to come back and see each time that I'm there, you know, the new batch of number ones and kind of see, okay, this is what's going on. It's kind of my checkpoint of, I get to doing other stuff now in the working world. I'm not always in Kaisai and doing Kaisai stuff on a regular basis, but now it's my touchstone of like, oh, that's what's going on. I get to reconnect with some of the other facilitators, the staff members, but then also get to connect with the new undergrads that are taking up the mantle of leadership and getting an understanding of, you know, it's one of those where I get kind of satisfaction of, it's in good hands. I get to see,
Get a bird's eye view. of the-
yeah, exactly. Get a bird's eye view. That's a good way to put it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's this is actually like my first convention, but one of my favorite things has been like what you're talking about, where meeting with guys from other alphas and just like hearing different ways of doing things, being like, oh, I've never even thought about that.
Yeah, I was one of those. I remember. I think it was my first convention. I wish I could remember which brother said it. He said something to the effect of, like, "Oh yeah, so most of my best friends are Kaisais from other alphas," and I was thinking, "Yeah, right."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
no.
yeah.
And now here I'm like, "No, he's right."
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
It's like a lot of the people that I stay in touch with are not from my alpha.
Mhm.
So I got my brothers that I keep in touch with. But like, yeah, I was kind of surprised how much, you know, nationally we're all very similar.
Yeah,
Find the same
similar
kind of men,
experience,
had
yeah.
similar experience, and it's so easy to connect with other brothers. And so
Mhm.
yeah, I immediately called him a liar, and I've now learned that no, he's not.
Yeah. He's telling the truth.
Yep, he's telling the truth. He knows what he's talking about.
And you were also a recent recipient of the Stanley J. Birge Award, which
Yeah.
congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Could you share what that award has meant to you and just any favorite memories from that convention? I'm sure there's a lot that went on for that one.
So funny enough, that convention was actually here in Minneapolis 9 years ago, where I received it. I think it was one of those, I didn't even really know what the Birge Award was was beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
I've come to find out now, talking with other recipients, that's not an uncommon thread.
Yeah.
But it's mostly a lot of people that have, been selfless leaders and given to their alpha and helped, revitalize things,
Mm-hmm.
kind of in that Stanley J. Birge style and
Yeah.
in his manner. So, kind of harping back on that, going from 6 to 40, that was kind of the pivotal bit for that kind of, I think, helped in being able to connect with the central office staff and, being that person to connect and leverage with the university, with staff, with different stakeholders. I think that's probably why I was given it, but it was one of those I wouldn't look trying to get it. I just.
But you earned it.
I was trying to help the alpha,
Mm-hmm.
and I was very fortunate and happy that I got recognized for it. That 6 to 40 number is kind of the funny bit of the memory, because I can remember sitting in the banquet hall, listening to the speech, going, okay, and then they're giving out another award, and they start, doing the description, going through, explaining stuff. I go, that's cool, that guy did some cool stuff, and I'm like, hold on, that sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah.
And then he mentioned taking the alpha from 6 to 40, and I'm like, oh, hold up, that's really familiar. And I can remember the other brothers at my table were sitting in front of me, and as soon as he said that, they go, what? I just remember seeing their faces of like, and it was all kind of a blur from there. Luckily, Dr. G, I think, recorded it, so I was able to figure out, what was actually said, and then I had to go up and give a speech and talking in front of a couple hundred people before I was like, even as number one, had not had the opportunity to do that yet. And it's all right, go do it now. So yeah, that was a fun memory of it, and then just getting to enjoy that with those guys that we brought in, and having them around for that moment was special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure that was a very enjoyable night, very memorable as well.
Yes, it was.
And lastly, just to tie everything together, we always like end with this, and this is usually a pretty hard question, but it usually brings together some pretty fruitful discussion. What is your favorite Chi Psi memory, if you can pin anyone?
Oh, pitting one would be difficult, I think. For me, I think that convention in Minneapolis 9 years ago, kind of on that tail end of restarting of the alpha and having all those men, having them come and experience that with me, because I had been to conventions before, and being able to kind of bring other guys and go, okay, you joined us and now you get this cool experience. Now I got to introduce them to the big family, everybody else, and at that point I'd already kind of connected with, so I connected to other alphas, and being able to say, hey, let's help connect them with other people that they're going to be, their peers for the next couple of years. So having that moment to kind of push them to, because I remember my first convention, we were just kind of on a little bubble with the Sigma Delta Duke boys, and kind of seeing each year us reach out and branch out and be more involved with national fraternities. So I was all right, pushing them to do that, and that kind of tied in with having them there and kind of experiencing the livelihood of convention. I think convention is by far my favorite memory. And if you ask me to pick one, even of that,
it's very hard.
It's very hard. That one sticks out in particular just because of the Birge, like we talked about. But they all just kind of, it's kind of fun to see how much the alpha progresses, but then just having those reconnecting with other brothers from across the country that you may not be seeing on a regular basis. So there's a couple other brothers that I will just regularly room with, the usual suspects, so to speak. So I would kind of take that as one of the favorite memories, is just coming here to convention, seeing them again, even if it's been a year or so, picking up like we just left off the other night.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. This is my first one, but I'm already very excited for the many more to come, and it has been a lot of fun. So I absolutely see where you're coming from there.
Yeah.
But I think that will about do it for now. Thank you so much for joining us
Thank you.
and giving us your time. And thank you for listening to the Gentleman's Journey podcast.